The process of opening up the lockdown is well underway across the country, but the relentless rise in COVID-19 cases, coupled with local and partial lockdowns, has created a general sense of confusion and anxiety among people. The entertainment industry, that has had a really rough time, is negotiating the reopening like everybody else, one step at a time. On the Media Dialogues today, I'm talking to one of the biggest content creators in the country, Balaji Telefilms, that has output across TV, films and digital platforms. It grew its annual revenues for the year ended March 2020 to 574 crore rupees. Its digital or OTT platform, ALTBalaji, that launched in 2017, saw digital subscription revenue grow by 100%, it says. But to steer through the massive disruption we are experiencing and stay on top, we'll need new strategies, perhaps a new vision. To discuss how she sees the present and future, we have one of the most consistently successful and canny content creators in the country, Ekta Kapoor, Joint Managing Director at Balaji Telefilms. Ekta, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Anuradha.
The entertainment industry has seen massive technological disruptions in the last decade. But will it be fair to say that nothing like the COVID-19 disruption that we are all experiencing right now?
I would say the biggest disruptor of this decade would be COVID-19. So, yeah, it's been probably the most, like every plan or every strategy we had put in place has actually has either been tossed out or accelerated. There's nothing that stays the same in the last 4 months. Like television recently has seen a big dip in TRPs, and it's because the housewife now no longer has the time to sit and watch television.
Yes.
When the whole family is at home, she's mostly working. Her time for relaxation has been taken over. And on the other hand, people are watching content when and where they have the time. So OTT platforms have taken a huge surge. When content is good, people switch to different technologies to then consume it. But for the first time, I think something like this, a pandemic, has taken the lead in actually switching from one technology or one medium of consumption of content to the other.
In the course of the last few months, I've been having conversations with people from different sectors, different industries even, not just media and entertainment. And there are two very clear differences in opinion. So there's one opinion which is that life will go back to normal once there is a vaccine and people feel secure because, we are social beings, we want to be out, we want to, interact with people. There is another view that says that even if we have a vaccine, people's behavior, human behavior will have altered very substantially. Which side or which view do you subscribe to?
Like most things in life, I'm a centralist.
That's an easy way out, Ekta.
No, that is not. Actually, you have to adopt one point of view because life is going to be that very interesting mix of two things. Will social beings go back to being social after the vaccine comes in? Of course, there's going to be a huge, I feel, from isolation, we'll go into deliberation, from deliberation, we'll go to celebration. And then we'll go back to normalcy. But the normalcy...
Yeah. What is that new normalcy going to be?
We have now adopted the OTT platforms. We have adopted technology. Now the conversion is the main, the inertia or the time for that inertia is gone. You can't go back to being innocent after knowing something. That won't happen. But with that, would you want to go out, see a film once a week? Initially, yes. Later on, you would probably say, I'll go twice a month. And once a month, I used to like watching those movies alone.
Yeah.
I think I didn't realize I'd enjoy my own solitude so much.
Describe the nature of the viewership, subscribers, time spent. Give us a sense of how people are consuming ALTBalaji and therefore digital or OTT streaming services.
So we've seen like 100% of the revenues go up, 70% go of what you call per day subscribers go up, which is pretty much how the industry standards are, and maybe a little better. We realize that while there are going to be many platforms catering to the TV audiences by putting catch-up TV on their platforms and putting it on advertiser-led models, there was going to be a Netflix, which will be an expensive, really classy, upmarket model which will be there for the audiences. There was a whole section of India which was getting which I thought was getting missed out, and I think a lot of people agreed with this thought process. We were actually the first ones who went to Samir Nair on Star TV and I said, "We want to do a prime time daily soap." He says, "Why would you want to do a prime time daily soap in India?" I said, "Because India works very differently than the rest of the world." So it will work in India. I don't know how, because I really felt that every day bringing people back, that habit would be great in India. I don't think it worked that well anywhere else except for some South American countries.
Right.
But now we realize that with the whole family having different tastes, TV was a one size fits all.
Yes.
While Netflix caters to the urban, high income earning audiences, and television caters to the mostly the family viewing patterns, which where you see television with your family. There's a whole audience in tier 2 and tier 3 and mass India who want to see different kind of content which they don't want to see with their family.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be only sexual content, but
yeah, just different tastes.
Me, I called Balaji, so I mean I have to clarify that. But it's basically even content like youth shows, you know. We're such a young country, we don't cater to mass youth. Mass men are not catered to. Except for films, you know, a lot of dubbed South Indian films do well. So there was a whole section of audiences who would want to watch content that is consumption for themselves. So this platform was created for that, and we thought it would take us about 4 to 5 years with the digital era coming into play for us to then convert. I mean, technically, if you see, even when we started, when cable TV came, it took about 6 to 8 years for it to penetrate.
Yes.
In fact, it's still penetrating. And then we just realized that, you know, it just got, the whole process got hastened with the pandemic.
Yeah, so the COVID-19 lockdown actually helped accelerate the adoption of OTT streaming service viewing, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And now I think it's going to have a lot of mindset change because you're going to be watching a lot of films directly on OTT platforms. So unless the film gets you really out of the house, why would you pay $200 in a very price-sensitive country like ours?
Dolly Kitty or Wo Chamakte Sitare is one of your films, which is going straight to Netflix. Is that because there is no theatrical release at this point, or do you see this happen in the future, even when theaters open and people start going back to theaters?
We have realized that a film doesn't become small or big if it comes on an OTT platform directly. You know, which was the mindset which we had. Dolly Kitty is a film that, you know, you actually have to give it that space to grow on word of mouth. It cannot be constantly reviewed with the collections, and you know, sometimes films take time. We don't have that liberty when we're in theaters. We're there for 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks we have to perform and run. You know, and then fight for theaters from big films. The mindset change is that, you know, I may want to not spend 200 rupees for a film that I want to sit alone and enjoy on my own. You know, individual viewing is coming into play in a big way now, and those films get a lot of play because they have a 1 week window for people to catch it if they want to, and yet not lose their basic audience, which is individual viewing movies. In terms of revenue, I would look at it like a lot of these films would get about 80% of their revenues covered on their OTT and international sales, 20% on their theatrical window, which would be a week or 2 weeks, just to get maybe some kind of, you know, release. Some of them would not even go that road and take a 15% plus on the cost of production and go straight to OTT platform. And that would be
interesting, Ekta. You don't even talk about a satellite release anymore. I mean, it's not, you know, can you imagine? There was a time where that big satellite release and the broadcast channels would fight for those rights.
Absolutely. And now I actually believe that, you know, there's going to be a satellite release. But I think when I started my little baby app, I realized that there's a behavioral change happening. You know, we're sitting at home, we're spending lesser time in the evening watching television. The addiction of seeing a daily soap had changed. You know, it had down, and there was a lot of content available, and because it was entering your homes, it was very, very, I would use this very controversial word, vanilla. because I wanted vanilla. I don't want to watch something controversial with my family.
Yeah,
We Indians
yeah.
are. And now with movies coming, smaller movies coming, I can give one new avenue of consumption, which is individual content consumption.
How do you see the future fortunes of the daily soap? Are you saying that we are done with the daily soap in India?
I don't think we are done, but you know what? For me, like for example, I always believed in the last 5 years, television has become either family viewing, which is the few hours you're at home, the TV plays, and or it is for the immobile family viewer. You know, the family who can't go out and watches their content on television, the older family member. You know, and somehow that audience will continue watching TV. Like I call my mother the slightly older family member who wants to watch television. She has been bored for the last 4 months when there was no TV. She started watching some shows on YouTube and everything, you know. She's waiting for TV to come back. So she is not going to move from television. She's probably watched a couple of shows on the app, but her tastes are televisions. She's the older Indian female, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, who likes television and their content. And
so you're not pronouncing the death of the soap as yet.
Oh yeah, I don't think so. The OTT is adding a whole section of audience who now get their taste met with. Like the 16-year-old no longer has to sit with their mother and watch a soap. She's irritated because you know what, it's going on for 10 years. And everyone's getting kidnapped and their face changes.
Dolly Kitty is going to Netflix. We know last year at around this time you had inked a deal with Z5 to create content for them and to share that content on both your platforms. I want to understand, how do you see these associations with respect to the fact that ALTBalaji exists as an OTT platform? Is there cannibalization, or is there enough space in the market for all these players, including ALTBalaji?
So I actually believe we are a 1.3 billion population.
Yeah.
We have variety of tastes. We have so much prohibition in our society where we are supposed to watch a certain kind of content with our family, that once there's a digital explosion, there are going to be at least 5 to 8 apps that if they create, say, at least 2,000 shows, even then there would be lesser shows than the kind of audiences we have available.
Wow, that's massive.
I actually believe that. I actually believe that, you know, we're not even at the tip of the digital explosion that's about to happen in our country. Frankly, with me, we created this app with the investment that we had to build a bigger base of content. We had to have someone, share the cost, and we knew the market was large enough that on 2 different platforms it would still not cannibalize each other.
Right.
And it worked because we've seen both the apps have grown. You know,
yes,
our partners have grown. They've done very well with our content. We have grown.
How do you distinguish the brand identities of these streaming services? Because what's happening today is that my monthly OTT bill is going up, you know, because every new service that launches, I'm like, oops, should I add this? Should I add that? And then what happens is suddenly I'm looking at 2,000 rupees, or 1,500 rupees at least every month just for streaming services. In that case, as a consumer, I'm going to start making choices. And that's when brands come into play. How do you see brands and brand identity of a streaming service get created? Is it only the content?
So I actually know exactly who we are catering to. We are very strongly male and youth, tier 2, tier 3 catered to as an app, you know. And we make a lot of women-oriented shows wherein we know that our partners have a huge female base.
Right.
You know? And somehow it works because in a family of 5, you may not watch all the shows of an app, but you will watch. And therefore, we never want to go into the market. We make 4 or 5, what should I say, urban shows. But that's not my market. Because like you will make a choice and tomorrow you might choose a Netflix over an ALTBalaji.
That's maybe typecasting, huh? That's typecasting me.
I'm saying maybe. I said maybe. I didn't say, I said you will, but I said maybe. I said, but maybe your driver or somebody who's working for you would find the language of our content far more understandable, far more relatable, and choose our app and then watch different shows on our app. So every app will find their own community to cater to.
So you're saying the content will determine the brand and the market for that
Content,
streaming service. It's not the price, it's not the user
both
interface, the
content
technology.
and pricing, both.
Okay.
And they're very price sensitive, you know. So we want to be that app that even if you watch 2 shows, the urban audiences still keep an old Balaji, and the masses choose us first.
Earlier this month in July, you started reshooting. Production has started again, and one of your lead actors developed COVID-19. How are you dealing with the anxiety of having to look out for everybody's safety? Because it is so difficult. You might have all SOPs in place, and yet something like this happens.
So, you know, it was terrible. I mean, that week for me was terrible. There were various people who were shooting, who had family members who were either 6 months or above 65 years old. And suddenly I felt the sense of responsibility. When I was getting back to shoot, I was choosing between how to cause lesser damage. Not going back to shoot, people don't, I mean, a lot of people think we're starting the economy. We're not really doing that. We're starting jobs so that people can afford a life again, you know. If you're not going to earn, how are you going to do? A lot of freelancers who work with us were not earning anything for 4 months. You know, at least we paid a certain amount of salary, so people who were on salary. And you do that, and then you have this one person who lands up with COVID-19. You're so, I mean, you feel responsible for all the others. You feel responsible for that actor. You suddenly start feeling that did you do the right thing? And then, of course, we added more SOPs after that.
How has it affected your mindset about continuing to go ahead with productions? How many do you have on at this point, or are you going to slow down? How do you weigh the risk at this point of time?
A little more strongly because the actor has just tested negative yesterday.
Super.
And we've actually learned that, you know, because there was enough distancing, no one else except for one person tested positive. So, and who also is on the way to recovery. So we've really realized that maybe we have to put 2 more SOPs into place and stuff. But the learning is that we'll have to live with it, you know. It cannot be that we get scared because there is a lot of, forget the need for creating content or as a business, taking the business forward. As a leader, you're seeing this whole section of professionals who wanted to come back to work, not because they earn daily wages. They don't fit into, you know, entertainment. A lot of people don't fit into the daily wage earners or the salaried. You know, they are professional makeup artists.
Yes.
You know, professionals who like do art on the set and everything, you know. So we've had a conversation with even the unions. We've got people back on the set, and we're putting more SOPs, but we're now going back with a little more. I think it's made us a little braver because
now that you've had the experience, you know what to expect in a certain way.
And the recoveries have been great. All our people have recovered. We've of course taken care of everyone, and we're going ahead with a little more surety and taking 4 or 5 more precautions.
Fair enough. What are the commercial implications of production work in times of COVID-19?
So I'm actually blessed with an excellent team, and everyone who's come back to their jobs has actually come back with this belief that they won't let the company go down. Our production teams, our directors have come up with new innovative ways of shoot so that they can keep the productivity high without any touching and everything. The gratitude people have had towards each other, that, you know, we're back on work and now we have to see that this work does not stop and the company stays afloat, because we are investors. We're not investors in the company, but we're invested in the company.
Yes.
And that's been unbelievable. We've managed getting content out. Our directors take, like, all the rehearsals are done with masks. Then there's Benedict solution. People quickly do their goggles, do a shot, wear the mask again. The director plans their shots 1 day in advance, comes on the set. The planning is exemplary. Exemplary. And they have managed keeping the productivity high with all these problems. So there is a bit of expense, you know, with all the masks and with all the sanitization. But the productivity has been good. So we're not at the highest and the optimum level of profit, but we won't be going down for sure.
You've been making this point repeatedly through this conversation, which is that I can watch what I want, you can watch what you want, individual viewing, being able to see stuff that only you want, right? Now, linked to this is the fact that OTT and streaming services have content and shows where really a lot of creative license is possible because of the lack of censorship that a movie goes through, or the lack of the self-censorship or regulation that television goes through, right? Because it has a family and a viewing base which is across demographics. Given this and the conversation about content regulation, how do you see that current pressure to self-regulate that is being put on streaming services? Because if you do self-regulate and you become like TV or the movies where even every time someone pulls out a cigarette it says smoking kills, it kills the storytelling, right? Are you afraid or what are your views on regulation?
So I feel regulation is important, but it cannot, when you're saying regulation means you actually make content which is clearly unabashed. It has a point of view. You like it, you hate it, you can get moralistic about it, but you cannot stop it, because automatically the idea of individual viewing is I should be allowed my taste, as long as it does not support anything like sexual crime and support. It may show it but doesn't support it. I think content out there should have that space for having individual tastes catered to. It can't happen if you regulate it. But at the same time, I believe that there's an age regulation that has to be put into play. Like, for example, if I'm making content on ALTBalaji, if I do not put out an age that I think under which people should not consume, or don't give any heads up that there is sexual and abusive content, then I would be rattling the viewer who comes in to watch that show.
Right.
As long as there is a proper lock and parental lock on content which is for an underage Indian or underage view, actually.
Yes.
The content should be out there for people to consume with various tastes, and there should be their choice on what they want to watch. If it's sexual, great. If it's not sexual, it's action, it's crime, great. Because that's the beauty of individual viewing. I have choice of making my own choice of content that I want to watch.
Are you worried that there is going to be barriers that creative people face going forward?
I don't know, because whenever I've had conversations with various people, there's always been a very, very two-way dialogue. It's not been one way at all.
Sure.
So I think we are also responsible on how we make our content, how we see that with such a volatile country that we live in, that we should not land up hurting people. But at the same time, so it's a balance of two things. So the dialogue starts only with that, you've got to put out these cautionary measures so that your content does not come into fire, or there are PILs fired and FIRs fired, makers, which is something that we're constantly fighting. It's like, and so I can understand the sensitivity the government wants us to exhibit. And at that time, it's that choice you have to make at that moment, brass tacks, that okay, this content is a little volatile, we're leaving it out there, there are going to be problems, but it is good, it is decent, it is the kind of content we want to put on. If it's sexual content, now we put our own SNPs in place because we don't want to hurt the sentiments of people.
Sure.
And sometimes content that gets censored is a little safer than content that does not get censored, because when there are the 100 PIs filed and FIRs filed, you're actually alone fighting the battle.
I think that's a great perspective, Ekta. Ekta, I'm going to make it a little personal because, last month in June, we saw the really tragic death of someone who you sort of helped nurture as a talent. We have heard you, express your grief. So our deepest condolences to you at a very, very personal level. There is such damaging allegations being made by a few people on the fact that Sushant Singh Rajput's death by suicide was because of the a treatment meted out to him by established players and companies in your industry. How do you weigh in? Because, you know, people like you need to be able to say something without adding fuel to a social media conversation, because this is
So
serious.
I mean, I want to reserve my comments on Sushant's death because the way his death has been discussed, it's not really been. Anything I say will land up in making me a controversy with people saying a lot of things around it. So I actually would just like to put one little perspective on my own personal experience. I read an article somewhere that I had banned Sushant. Okay, when I read that, I was in shock because I was like, 4 days before his demise, I had put up a post for him because I was remembering him, and he replied to that post. So when you've not been able to see that and you have read some article randomly, you've not even given that man's his own words that respect that he and I are having a conversation. Does it look like I banned him? It's on my wall. I have written Sushant was a boy I saw when we launched him. We knew his smile would win a million hearts, and he's written eternally grateful to you, ma'am, for that. That has been not even read. People are just hearing some really random article which said that I had banned him. I have spoken to him this year twice or thrice. I had no idea. The only thing I'd like to say about this is sometimes we think people on face value, we think they are really like happy, and we don't break those walls or those doors to get in to see what they are going through. I really should have done that. Then I could have answered your question if Sushant was bullied or troubled.
I think that as someone who represents this industry and has contributed so much to what it is today in terms of bringing in talent, if today an outsider, if kids around the country look with stars in their eyes about wanting to make careers in the movie business or the content business, on screen, off screen, how should they see this, and to hear from you how they should see this kind of sensationalized, completely scurrilous, unscrupulous, media-led conversation that's happening?
My personal belief is that there is nothing like an outsider insider. I believe that talented actors will easily doors open for people who are in families from films. But person like me, I was not getting into acting. I had to drop my pilot in Z, and then Z just took that pilot and a humpanch was made. So I actually believe there are, and all five newcomers did well. Smriti Rani, newcomer. Sakshi Tanwar,
Vidya Balan.
Sushant Singh Rajput, newcomer. Vidya Balan, newcomer. Prachi Desai, newcomer. India accepts you. India loves you. To have a face that connects with people. I feel the doors open easily for the insiders, and they may look better also because somewhere I agree that they get the makeup and the look and the talent earlier. But the connection that a mass Indian has, and a Shah Rukh Khan comes in out of nowhere and he stands and he becomes a star. The way people support him, I feel that half the time struggle का एक और ही color आता है face पे, and that nobody can take away from you. You have to feel pain to express pain. A lot of privileged kids don't feel pain, so they don't express that pain. I think you outsiders have a better chance. I feel half the time for India to connect, you have to look like one of them. Sushant had that. When he came, I saw his face. I said, wow, look at that smile. Look at that confidence. Look at that dream. Look at that drive to make it happen. यही तो बनेगा स्टार, और कौन बनेगा?
Ekta, the way you've said it, the way you've just expressed yourself, I think is extremely, extremely meaningful. I'm going to leave it there because you weighed in, and it's important for people to weigh in on matters that are so serious and yet treated so trivially. Like I said, our deepest condolences to you at a very, very personal level.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for talking to me and talking to us about the way you see the future of the entertainment business. Stay safe. All good luck to everybody at Balaji Telefilms and associated with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you very much for watching. We'll be back again with another conversation. Do stay tuned to CNBC TV 18.